Good evening. It's roughly 5:45 on Wednesday, October 14th, 2015. It is the monthly meeting of the Urbana Human Relations Commission. Could I please have a roll call?
Francis Rigberg Baker.
Here.
Kevin Bowersox Johnson.
Here.
Daniel Larson.
Here.
Johnese Mitchell.
Here.
Lisa Mosley. Peter Resnick.
I am here remotely.
Aisha Lamb-Soap. Okay, we have.
Thank you. Looking over the agenda, are there any additions, edits, corrections that need to be made? If not, is there a motion to approve?
All motion.
I second it.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Thank you. Looking at the minutes from our September meeting, are there any edits, additions, or corrections that need to be made? If not, is there a motion for approval?
All motion to approve.
And
I'd second.
Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Okay, public participation. Seeing none, hearing none. We will move forward to, there is no old business to discuss, but we do have some new business to discuss. Alex.
We had sent out a survey request for everyone to comment on which committees they might be interested in order of preference from 1 to 3rd and 4th preference, and those came in. I sent an email to Daniel as the chair and to Peter as the vice chair, letting them know what the results were. And looking over everything, it looks like one way we could proceed, and I just figured I'd throw this out on the table and have you discuss what you thought. We could have the Ordinance Committee chaired by Peter. We could have the Criminal Justice Committee chaired by Daniel. We could have the Community Relations Commission chaired by Francis. We could have the Training and Development Committee chaired by Kevin. In terms of the additional member, for the Ordinance Enforcement, we could have Aisha. For the Criminal Justice, it would be open, and perhaps we could rotate persons in depending on the issue we took up. And for Community Relations, we could have Lisa as a supporting member. And for Training and Development, we could have Johnese as the secondary complementing member. It was very difficult to sort of come up with which would be a complement of persons, and some seasoned leadership and some new leadership, and complementing each one another. And I'll put it to you for discussion.
I'm fine with that unless you want to chair.
I'm fine with it.
So I'm fine with my appointment.
Excellent.
That's fine with me.
As am I. Peter?
Yes, just fine here.
Okay, Alex, thank you so much for coordinating that, and obviously for the spark of the idea as well. Thank you.
So we will do this would we do this by motion, or would you just want to do it from appointment by the chair?
I think last time we did motion to approve the committees, the structure of the committees. So therefore, I think at this point the chairs can be appointed. So I think appointment by the chair for the people to be a part of the committees that would be my take anyway.
Sounds good. All right, is there a motion to approve?
That seems perfect. It seems perfect to me.
Sorry, Pete. Okay, Pete's in. Is there a motion to approve?
I was just saying, I think the chair can just go ahead and make the assignment.
Okay,
I don't
is that what you said, Kevin? I'm sorry.
No worries. Yeah.
All right.
I think that's fine. I think, Dan, you can just say, it is so.
Wow. Never in my life had that power.
You got our input. Take it while you can.
Approved. Again, thank you, Alex.
Thank you for asking for our input.
The next item of business then is, while the appointments have been made, we do definitely have business in one of the committees. Fran has been working on some language for a housing rights poster that we all got. Fran, over to you, please.
Okay. Well, one of the things I wanted for me to inquire about or for us to discuss was, were there any past or existing documents that would serve this purpose? And apparently there is. And we all have copies of this?
Real quickly,
Yes.
Peter, it's a one-sheet form that's just sort of bullet points of the human rights ordinance, the classes that are protected, and then just some language and then contact language. I'm not sure if you've seen that before, but
It
That's
says
what we're looking
it's
at.
titled Urbana Human Rights Ordinance for Posting.
And was it in the packet?
No,
we just got copies of it.
It's in a,
Alex brought that.
it's in a supplement packet,
Okay.
and I emailed a copy out to you today, Peter, so I hope you received it.
Thank you.
And if the,
Yes.
perhaps we can just show it in the camera, if you can zoom in.
You know, right now I'm not getting a video feed, so if
Okay.
we can do that, that'd be great.
Okay, great.
It's not dissimilar. It's not too dissimilar from my draft in basic message. We can use this as this is an official document that's approved in all ways, all protocol. Okay, and it's been produced. Do we have copies of this, or is that easily done?
Yes, we have,
Mhm.
we have a stack. Now, this came up when I mentioned, I think at one of our previous sessions, that the number of complaints in housing that we have
Yes.
received were down. And in some ways, that could be good news. And I forget, one of the commissioners mentioned that it might be a good idea just also to make sure, do people know of the
Mhm.
rights? And then I think Francis asked that if I look into that, and I have, and I identified the poster that we do provide to
Mhm.
individuals, and that housing is listed on there, so
Mhm.
that's a great thing. We are going to be updating this to make it just a little bit more informative,
Good.
and also to take out the previous Human Relations Officer, and also to provide electronic notification information, such as the HRO new web address and
Mhm.
email address. And I also want to look at for you and the office how housing providers are notified and try to make this much more easily available for them. I have noticed as I am going about in the community, I've seen at least one organization that proudly and prominently displayed it in an area where not just the employees could see, but
Mhm.
actually the customers could see. I hadn't seen that before.
Mhm.
And, when I'm visiting different employers as a private person, I don't have an occasion to go into their break rooms or places like that. So it's very likely that they are there. At some point in the near future, I'll look at some kind of information to organizations, reminding them and letting them know they can download it.
So I love your language here, and I'm just wondering if we, instead of having two, where yours references this, if you're going to update this anyway, I really like the language used here. Like, if you think you may have been discriminated against based on any of these reasons, maybe that's what could go here instead, like that, because it just reads really clearly. Like, if you think this is the case, and right here in bullet points is what you should be looking at, I think that would be great, because I love your language. It's very clear. It's very, direct. If you are going to update this, there are some things that I think need to be a little bit tweaked, like sexual preference. Many people are offended by that phrase, as it assumes a preference versus, orientation. It assumes choice. And then, gender identity separated from, or perceived gender identity is also a big thing, or perceived sexual orientation. I think are things that we could add to this. So I would like to also help in the bullet points too. If you really are going to look at this, and we are going to update our discrimination policy, there's some more, I don't want to say trendy, but more relevant, more timely terminology that we could actually use. Yeah, more evolved. I like that word.
That's Skype's, isn't that Skype's?
Do we have to
Pete, we lose? That's okay. Or G-Chat, or... Yeah, and I love the, and then just
Okay.
for more information and free assistance, noting that.
I think, yes,
Just, you know,
that's the
that's
thing.
nice.
This is fine in terms of covering the law, but I think in terms of reaching the audience most effectively and getting their attention and keeping it and really giving them what they need to know, I'd rather have something that tells them it's free and so forth.
It's a community service.
Right.
Absolutely.
And it's like not just, this is something that's going on in the background, but this is something that can help you. The other thing, this quote, I would not have used the term sexual preference or limited it in the ways it's limited, but I just wanted it always impresses, I think it's good to actually quote from the ordinance and say, this is the law. I would like to see that changed, but I can't change it in that.
They should match exactly. I mean, that
Right.
language should match. Yeah.
I just changed the person to you or whatever, but that's okay because of the brackets. It's allowed, but so I would be happy to. I certainly don't intend to have two things running around when we have one, and we just want to make that as good as we can. So, and I was also I was wondering, do we ever ally with people like the tenants union or anything like that, or do they at least know what we're doing, or can they help inform us of how to do it, who to reach? Does this go to anybody who would like even a small rental situation? It
Well,
says
all landlords have to now, including people that rent out of their home,
Mhm.
based on the council decision a few years back, all landlords have to register. So we should have at some level a database to make sure that
right.
we can get these out. And from a starting from here perspective, and then starting from moving forward, as people register, they should be given this. And we have to decide as a commission. Like for me, as an HR professional, I did not find it just appropriate to post this where employees are at. I actually gave it out to employees. I think it's really important to understand. The thing with that, the reality of that is the people that are doing that and going through all that effort to do that are the people that are abiding by it because it's so blatant. So I don't know how effective that is, but and if we would be wasting paper or not, or if we'd need to look for more effective ways and educate the community differently than we educate the landlords.
Right, I was thinking in terms of a brochure versus a posting and things like that. That's interesting, and that relates to what you're saying. That's why I think it's very important that if it's something that is, quote, just posted, like the federal employment things, that really gets your attention. No one's going to miss that. And that's why I wanted a big sort of know your rights kind of.
Yeah, I can tell you though, from an HR perspective, it is big, it is flashy, but everybody knows that it's there and nobody knows what it says. To be very honest, they have no idea what's on the federal requirement posters, even though it's all about their rights as employees.
Well,
Because as a culture, So as a culture though, so that's what I'm saying. Like, I think educating landlords as this is the law that you are as landlords required to be following. And then, because at what point, especially, it's one thing in a job because people get hired and then they get to go to the break room and then they see that. The problem is what happens when discrimination occurs in the application process, whether it's at the job or through a landlord. If this isn't provided to them in the application process at some level, or they're not knowledgeable about it, the fact that discrimination occurred during that process, they never got to get into the inside world to see these posted. And so many landlords have their application online. So saying things like, if you, for example, as a nonprofit organization, if you have to prove to the federal government that you have a non-discrimination clause, to the point where you even have to tell them where you post it. So having a requirement from this body saying, if you submit applications online, then you have to have this discrimination clause as the first screen of the application process, or something of that sort, because this way we are meeting both educating the landlord, but also educating those that are applying for housing.
I think that's the intention of the ordinance. Clearly, it says, in a conspicuous location where business or activity is customarily conducted or negotiated. I mean, it should be in your face. It should be as evident as anything else in the situation. So.
Can I speak, Dan?
Peter, please.
And I agree with Fran, and I think because it says where business or activity is customarily conducted or negotiated, I think it's reasonable for Alex to, when he sends this to landlords, that we make the requirement that this goes with the application. Same thing for employers, that a copy of this should be handed to prospective employees. They get an application for employment.
Good idea.
Yeah, I think we'd have to really work with employers on just coming from an HR perspective, and the amount of paper, and we're all digital. Digital is very easy. Adding this to an online application, very easy. I'm coming from the reality perspective of all the work that goes into applications. Totally supportive of this document. But I also know the resistance you might get hearing that.
Oh,
And so we have to be ready for that resistance and ready with, one of the things that beats resistance is strategies for implementation. And I think we need to be ready for that, because I'm all for it. But I also know what it's like. I mean, for one job opening, just so you know, on average, for an entry-level position, you can get upwards of 200 applications for that one position. Okay, I mean, we're in the middle of a recession. There's a lot of paperwork that goes along with that. And so businesses are going to have some resistance adding to that workload. I'm for it. I just think we got to be ready for that.
Alex.
I'm so excited. So I just wanted to mention first that your guys are ahead of me. It was my desire that I'm going to find a way to synchronize both this document and the document that Fran prepared. And it was my hope, usually when I'm going to be putting out any kind of information, it's my desire to get comment from the HRC first. So I would produce it as a draft and then submit it to you. Having heard all the wisdom and the ideas, I'm actually thinking that I'm going to partner with one of the subcommittees to develop it and then turn it to the HRC for a full comment. And so I was thinking it could either go to the community relations group, or it could go to the training and development group, or it could go to one and then go to the other for a review, however you want to see that. Any ideas on how we could do that in terms of?
Wouldn't it be more, it depends on what piece you're talking about. If you're actually talking about updating this document, isn't that more ordinance?
It is. I was thinking more in terms of the education piece and the writing of it. And that I was thinking it more from that perspective. So when I produce publications or I produce training seminars or things of that nature, I'm going to rely heavily on the training and development committee. In other words, is this suitable? Now, when it comes to places in the community or interfacing with the community, I envision that the community relations group would be a good group to involve. That there may be more ambassadorish moving forward. So I could produce it and send it to the whole board or to a specific committee, work with them.
Peter? Peter?
I just think, Kevin's earlier comment is well taken. I'm sorry, can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that Kevin's earlier comment is well taken, that this is really not so much an issue of the law itself and how the ordinance is constructed, but is really how do we get employers on board with this. I think that's the more complicated task.
I agree, Peter, and I think it might be a two-step process. I mean, as somebody who would be on the education committee, I would rather ordinance take it over from a fix this to the way we like it as, and bring it back to the whole from an ordinance perspective. And then once we have that, the next step is then to educate on it. And knowing
Yeah,
that's coming, sorry, go ahead, Peter.
I was just saying, I think that makes a lot of sense.
Perfect, we'll handle it that way.
And if the ordinance is open, if the second seat is open, I'm happy to fill that seat so that there's both. So, I mean, for the purpose of this activity,
I think it's not.
because it would require a joint
The only one
effort.
that's open is criminal justice.
Okay. Ordinance is, this is clearly an ordinance enforcement issue because the ordinance requires this document. So, as long as we all get to see it, and
Oh, of course,
Thus-
always.
it's great.
Excellent. But Fran, do you want to remain involved as well? You got us this great, got some good language as well. I mean,
Okay,
are
I
you
thought
are you
I
okay
thought I was
passing it off, or
sure. Well,
I mean,
last week somebody said something about we need someone to write something up, and I just said I'll do it. And so I thought I was jumping into the breach. Clearly, it wasn't that much of a breach, but I'm happy that people like my language and perspective on it, and I don't really care about the details.
Okay.
I'll be an egoless editor.
excellent.
I do want us not to get into this point where we don't feel like if Fran really wanted to be a part of that
course.
committee temporarily for this, that's not allowed.
Well,
Let's
very
not start.
fluid.
Yeah, I think we need
Not
to have
fluid.
that fluidity, and the more members on a committee at some level. I mean, we're not a very big board to be a commission to begin with, but you don't want 12 people, but we're not
Oh, yeah,
that big that we have to worry about
we
those
have to worry
numbers.
about the Public Meetings Act.
Right,
so
I
that's-
agree.
So we do have to.
Yes.
My main
But-
thing is
Yes.
I'm an advocate kind of person, and I'm an outreachy kind of person, and I want people to know, because I think when they know their rights, it's extremely empowering. So that's whatever board I'm on or whatever, that's what I'm interested in. I also like to write, and I think I'm pretty good at knowing the audience and what they need, because that was sort of my career. But that said, I'm happy to have made this contribution, and I'm happy to consult with people during the development, and I'm happy to see it at the end. So I don't feel pushed aside. I'm okay.
All right. Thank you.
Can
Thank
we-
you.
That's a good point, Dan. Can we clarify right now, it would be 2 max, right? In a room together, right, based on our numbers?
Yes, and the way I envisioned it, these committees are minimum, and the committees can invite any other members. The only thing is that when you are going to meet, that you notify the HRO so that we can notice it for you and ensure that we meet all of the requirements. But the goal, of course, is that to have at least the committees in place and chairs in place so that we're always moving forward on all four fronts. And then as we need specialists, we cycle them in.
Excellent. Thank you. Any other questions?
Just for clarity, so we can work, there's a possibility of working, like even if you're assigned to one particular committee, you can work across to help fill in gaps on another committee, right? So like say, for example, there's an open spot on criminal justice. If say you wanted to do that, but you're training and development or you're another committee, you can work under the chair
Absolutely.
there, okay?
Absolutely.
And that's the committee that actually thought you would probably help out.
It is.
Excellent. Okay, thank you. Kevin?
While we're on this topic, can I just ask real quick, now that we have committee chairs, is there a first step of when that committee should meet by for the first time and what that committee should be, how that committee should be getting input to talk about priorities? I mean,
was-
it's great that we have these committees.
No, no,
Now what do we
no.
do with them?
Well, that was partially what I was about to say.
Okay, thank you.
I don't think Fran gave us a good model to follow, but I don't think the other three have anything to report tonight. But I think our homework assignment is to meet before the next meeting in some capacity and come with, hey, this is the first thing we want to do, and then maybe you have a short-term plan and a long, something you want to do by the end of the year and something you want to do over the next calendar year. Something like that. You guys decide. I don't want, but I think our between now and next meeting, I'd like every committee to meet at least once and brainstorm some ideas about where you want to begin. Does that sound? Does
Yeah.
that somewhat address what you were wondering, Kevin? I mean,
Yeah, it's great. That's a
Okay.
great, maybe we take it one step further?
please.
Possibly, can we do another survey? And all it is a text box for each committee? And ask that you, in the next week, that we fill in that in regards to ideas so that each committee can have an idea from the whole of
Even
what some
better.
of the priorities are? Like, I have some ideas of education, but we were fortunate enough to kind of talk about that as a whole last week. So I feel like I have somewhat of your input on that.
That's good. Great.
But if we could just have just general bullet points, like, having a guest on resources available to the community here, that's important. That's
Yeah.
what I heard in that. But if you could, just quick bullet points. I don't want essays or anything. I don't want to make people's lives miserable.
No, take 10
But-
minutes to think about what
Right.
each committee would, no, that's very reasonable. That's a
Okay,
great.
thank you.
Alex, would that be something we could get done in the next week to 2 weeks?
Sure, we get it
Just-
done in the next 4 business days. I just want to make sure, is it in the category of community relations, what do you see as initiatives? In criminal justice, what do you see as the initiatives?
Yep.
And in
For each 4 committees,
in
for
ordinance
all of us.
enforcement?
Yep.
And then do you want them at all to rank whether they're high priority or medium priority?
If the person feels that's important, I think they can do that,
Okay.
but let's,
Not required.
Okay.
I don't think.
And what I would do is, just so that it expedites the survey and the tabulation, would you mind if I make it an electronic survey that you go and it tabulates everything?
Awesome.
Yeah,
Okay.
a Google form
Mhm.
that then you can just send education only, the education results? Or you can send us all of them, because
All
that
the
doesn't
results,
matter.
yeah.
All the,
Here's
yeah,
the
I'll just
Yeah.
produce a report for
Whatever
the,
one's
for
interested
the commission. Okay, I will get that done. I'll try to get it done within the next, give me 5 business days, and if I need an extension, I'll let you know.
Please, yeah. So that, let's say, still though, 2 homework assignments. One is please complete the survey. 2, to process that data, wait till after that, you get that data, have a meeting, and short-term, long-term sort of thoughts. Is that
Yeah.
reasonable?
I think
That
that's
sound
great.
good?
I think that would be great. And to clarify, one last point in regards to us meeting, if it's only 2 of us, do you need to know? You don't care. You just want to know if we need to go through the Open Meetings Act requirements. Sorry, my mic's on. You just want to know if we need to go through the Open Meetings Act requirements of posting, et cetera, which would, at this point, based on our numbers, be 3 or more. Okay, thank you.
I would welcome an invitation, but at some point, it can be the first meeting, it can be the second meeting, whatever the case is. And the purpose of that would be, one of the reasons I was excited about them is I want to partner much in a deeper, stronger way with the commission and the subcommittees. So I'd also like to be able to express my thoughts in terms of areas and priorities to put on your desk as you run your committee. But it is your committee. I would just be providing you the state of affairs within the community and our processes.
Fran.
Alex, if you attend a meeting of, say, Lisa and I have a meeting and you come, and then does that make it subject to the open meetings requirements?
I do not believe so, because technically I am not a member of this commission. I do not vote. I do not make motions. I am a staff support to the commission. I will double check that just to make sure we're, completely compliant. But at this point, I don't believe that I am.
Hey, Peter? Pete?
Sorry?
Did you have, if 2 committee members were to meet with Alex, so that'd be a total of 3, that does not require any kind of public notification, does it?
No, Alex is not a member
The voting
of the Relations Commission, so that does not.
Okay. In the next month, first things first, we're going to circulate a survey to sort of get everyone's input on types of things each committee could be working on, and then we're also going to try to meet before next meeting. How does that sound to you?
So I can do that next week at assorted times. I'm happy to meet up with I should have looked.
I think it's with Aisha.
Aisha, yes. So yeah, I'm glad to meet up, and that sounds fine with me.
Okay, Kevin.
One last, sorry, I
No,
don't know why I
don't-
feel
don't
so talkative
apologize.
tonight, but
Please don't.
one last housekeeping, which is the resources available for these meetings in regards to location, just in case we wanted to meet here at the city or.
If you notify us, we will find space. We're very cramped in the city building, so it may be very difficult.
Come into your office.
Yeah. If you give me some notice and it's critical, I will leave my office and give you an opportunity to use it.
But would it be reasonable if we gave you 2, 3, 4 days notice?
Yeah.
Could you just check on availability?
Of course,
Yeah.
always. We will always try. And count on us. I'll talk to Tony about pre-identifying any rooms that stand a good chance of being available. I was just mentioning that if there is no room, of course, we'll let you know. But then we'll probably work with you to identify throughout the community places that we can plug you in very quickly. So we'll come up with a list for you.
Great.
It's perfectly okay to meet in one of our homes, isn't it? Or
Absolutely.
in a restaurant or something?
Okay, well, I think that wraps up new business and committee assignments and sort of the launch of this initiative, so I hope everyone's excited. We can move forward to the staff report. Alex, turn it over to you, please.
All right. For today's meeting, we have 5 companies that are applying for certification for the first time. The first company is CDS Office Technologies with 116 employees. They have a 3.4% minority participation rate, and we are recommending that they be certified for 1 year provisionally. We have a second company, Custom Products Corporation, with 60 employees. They have a 26.7% minority participation rate, and we are recommending that they be certified for 2 years. The third company is Engineering Concepts and Solutions. They're a very small company, 10 employees. They have currently a 0% minority participation rate, and we are recommending that they be certified provisionally for 1 year. I understand that that is also the practice of the HRO office for small companies, which is 15 and under. The fourth company that is applying is, for the first time, is Hall Signs Incorporated. They are 27 employees. They have a 3.7% minority participation in the workforce, and we are recommending that they be provisionally certified for 1 year. The final company is Ideal Environmental Engineering. They have 25 employees. They have a 0% participation rate, and we would like to recommend a 1-year provisional certification.
Alex, thank you. Comments, questions, observations on these new applicants? Peter?
I think for the last two, more than a year. Well, at least for the ones that are at 0%, that seemed. Engineering Concepts and Solutions is only 10. I'm sorry. So it is that last one, Ideal Environmental Engineering, that's at 0%, but over our 25 seems reasonable to do the 6 months.
Okay. Other comments or observations from the council? Kevin? Or I see Fran, I'm sorry.
Alex, did you say 1 or 2 years for Engineering Concepts?
1 year.
Okay. On my thing, it says 2 years. Do I have an older version or something?
Third down, Fran?
Yeah.
Engineering
There's one there.
Concepts?
It says 2 years.
Engineering concepts is third.
Oh, I don't know why.
Okay.
Mine says 1 year.
Yeah, it does. Wow.
Hmm.
Okay, that's fine, I just
We might
wanted
have
to
sent
be
you
clear on
the-
it. 1 year is fine. I,
Well-
yeah, I agree about the
Has it always,
25 people and 0.
Peter, has it always been our policy that under 10 they get the 2 year, or I'm not
Yeah, I think it's that they get the 2-year
I'm not
done.
particularly pleased to see the 0, but I think, what was your understanding, Alex, or thought?
My understanding is that they get 2 years. However, I have requested 1 year.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I am fine with, I have no disagreement if you were to go with 2 years. However, the way I look at it is, our 2 year is our gold standard, and I see that as something we would award an organization. They're doing well, they have good processes in place. 1 year gives an organization an opportunity to develop. And it's my understanding that the city of Champaign only certifies for 1 year, regardless of whether you're at a gold standard level or you have challenging numbers. So I thought it might be a good idea, then we can look at their progress at the year mark. However, if you feel that 2 years is the way the commission would like to go, I can support that definitely.
Thank you. No, great to hear your reasoning.
Dan, on that point,
Peter?
so I think currently the commission has had as a matter of policy that we certify anything, and I believe the number is 10, but we should probably check what we've been doing, that we certify all those not on the basis of a gold standard that they've met per se, but that we think under that number, it's just impossible to tell what precisely is going on, even year over year. Reduce those small numbers.
They have 2 women addressing
Right.
the historical
Yeah.
flaw in the engineering field.
That's been one of my concerns. I mean, I know, for example, the other one is 0%, but they have 32% women.
Yeah.
And I think this is probably one of my biggest concerns, and not necessarily concerns, because I think we try very hard to be consistent here.
Absolutely.
But when we talk about silver, gold, platinums, standards and the years, I think one of the things that I would really like to see the committee in charge of ordinance enforcement do is develop a generic skeleton matrix of what we're looking for in a holistic picture in each one of those levels. Because when we look at, 23% or 20% or 32% women, at some level that deserves recognition. The lack of minority also deserves attention. So anyway, I just kind of wanted to say that, and I think I know there's no matrix that's going to be able to fix every possible scenario, but a generic skeleton of some sort of matrix I think would be a great, very difficult task, but would helpful.
That's certainly one of the things I hope the ordinance committee does. Maybe not for me, maybe not a metric, but we need to work on language, metrics, something to give us better guidance, and also just for consistency's sake. I think that's something I think we've talked about. Anyway, excuse me. Fran, you were going to say, I interrupted you, Paul. Sorry.
I also wonder if we can't, in some way, acknowledge, be sensitive to the fact of how people are employed within the company. Because if all the women in a engineering firm, for example, are in clerical roles, there's nothing wrong with that work, but I mean it's not consistent with having conquered sexism.
No.
If women are put in what are seen as servile roles, or minorities, other minorities. So I would like to see things get a little less of a crude measure than they are. I do like seeing the fact that there's a minority and doesn't have to be defined as one race or another. That's very important, but maybe we can be more subtle in other ways too.
And I think one of the ways to possibly do that, and I don't want to make a lot more work, but it may actually down the road be easier work, is that this matrix here actually match the matrix that they have to fill out on the application, which actually divides the type of work that each of these classes are doing. One, then you're doing data, and you're not having to calculate. You're actually doing direct data entry, so that might make it easier. Developing it from scratch, or at that point, might make it more difficult. But it would help, because I do look at that data more specifically in the application process, and then I almost forget that data again because we've got this summary here, and so I think that's a good point.
To some extent, this way of presenting the data might be dictated by some of the law that we're subject to. Is that true, Alex? I mean, that this is what we can, obviously we're not looking at LGBT here or any or appearance or religion or anything. So this is just for certain very sort of limited purposes.
Well, this is one of the hopes that I have for the committees, and our application form desperately needs to be overhauled. So, and I didn't feel comfortable beginning that overhaul process alone, and I definitely didn't feel that it would be efficient to work with the entire commission on its overhaul. So this is one of the things that I really want to work with the ordinance enforcement group on. I would respond that yes, Fran, some of this data is being reported in terms of what is legally important, but also I one day had a half hour and I wanted to get creative, and I started slicing the data differently and having graphs and visuals, and it shows you a much more stunning look at the corporation. And however, I started to exceed my skills with Excel, and then I put it away because I'd exceeded my hour of brainstorming. But yes, there are ways to produce this data so that, as Kevin indicated, we have more of a picture, but still has this bottom line kind of numbering. And that would be something that I would enjoy working with the enforcement group in terms of how we present the data to the commission when they're reviewing.
I certainly like the notion, Alex, of how you frame it as a gold standard. But I do worry about consistency, at least on engineering concepts. Peter, I think the cutoff was 15 we've been using since I've been
Right.
here.
Which
So this is a
I
company
agree
of
with you about
10.
consistency.
that makes sense based on federal law as to when you have to start meeting certain regulations.
15?
Is
I
15,
believe
I mean,
that's- Alex, I certainly understand your reasoning. I'm not in any way disagreeing with it per se. I do, there's one place where I
And-
think we
and-
have been fairly consistent, or have been consistent across the board with organizations 15 and under. Now, we can change, we can address, we can review that and discuss that, but, Peter, thoughts? I'm sorry I cut you off.
No, not at all, and it's just hard to figure out the timing here.
Yeah.
I agree with you completely.
and out of that group,
And I think
There's Pete.
that if we're going to take a look at changing that procedure, we should do so, just as an overt choice. We shouldn't do it based on one-off, well, this particular vendor looks like maybe we want to review this. Let's do this, as a conscious choice, as a change of policy. And maybe when Alex and Aisha and I meet up, we can talk about whether we, as a subcommittee, want to recommend to the commission that we do change that policy. But I think for now, we should stick with the policy that we've got, which is approve anybody under 15 employees, and let's work on a more comprehensive way to approach changing those things.
We can see you now, Pete. Hello. Sorry. Sorry. Okay, so how about for the other four? How do we feel about the staff recommendations? Any discussions, comments, observations for CDS, custom products, hall signs, and ideal environmental engineering? Any other comments, questions?
Now, is it typical to extend a whole year to a company like Ideal Environmental Engineering that falls below the requirement of 3 point, or at 0% for minorities?
We could go 6 months, or that's kind of 6 months, year, 12 months.
Okay.
2 years, excuse me, sorry.
Or
Or,
we can ask for an overt review and see if we want to
Yeah.
disqualify them. Although,
so Peter, how are you feeling about ideal environmental engineering?
I would prefer to see them at least 6 months. I haven't had a chance to look at their specifics. Where are they located?
sorry,
I have it up here, hold
disclosed it.
on.
Yeah, say I disclosed it.
They're in Bloomington.
And what are most of their folks executives or
No,
skilled or?
They have, one officer is a male, one officer is a female. 7 technicians are male, 4 are women. Sales are men. Office and clerical are men. And craft skilled workers are men, if I'm reading that right.
Sales workers, office and clerical, they have
I'm
more
sorry, I
women.
can't read that.
Yeah, they
Is
have,
there
they have
3?
more women.
They have 3 women in office and clerical.
So that sounds to me like there's some reason to believe they could find diversity in their workforce, and maybe we do want to do a proper review of them.
Thoughts, folks?
I'm in agreement with that.
Fran?
We're considering not approving them at all and requiring more information before we would do that.
That is correct.
Okay. Have we done that?
I don't, I don't think we have, Peter.
We
We've
did it
wrestled
with-
with that question.
We've done it since I've been here.
We
Have
did
we
it
done
with,
it?
we did it with one
Yeah.
company.
we
I mean,
actually-
it's just,
It hasn't happened very often, so.
right. I think at the very least, it should be a 6-month, because they get the strictest letter. But to stop and take a closer look, I wouldn't be opposed to that either.
I mean, they have, I mean, yeah.
And the difference between 6 months and doing the review now, we are, giving you a certification for now, but we're going to review, and in 6 months you may lose that certification. If we want more information right now to indicate that you're making a good faith effort at hiring a diverse workforce. With numbers like this, it may be worth doing that at this point.
I'm a little confused as his recommendation just because of the cutting out. Okay, that's what I thought, but
No, I think he
can we
wants to
clarify
review
that
it.
with him?
I think he was he was pointing out the difference
difference.
between 6 months and now. Peter, you're in favor of requesting the review now, correct?
I think we should ask for more information and not approve it at the moment.
There's just been a couple cutouts. That's the only reason why I've asked you to repeat it. Sorry. How do others feel about that?
I'm in agreement with that,
Okay.
100%.
All right.
I mean, I
So-
think maybe it's something that should happen more often.
Okay, well, if any other thoughts or discussions? If not, we need a motion for 1 year for CDS, 2 years for custom, 2 years for engineering concepts, 1 year for hall signs, and a request for information from Ideal Environmental Engineering.
Correction, I thought we said 1 year for engineering concepts and solutions?
Um,
1, 2, 1? Did you increase to 2?
yeah, because that's
Okay.
been the custom, I mean, that's,
Okay,
I know arguing by tradition is not always great, but that has been kind of the precedent.
okay, yeah, not correction, sorry, clarification
Yeah.
is more of what I needed. Okay, just wanted to make sure.
Is there a motion on the floor?
So moved.
Seconded.
Is Any final discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Okay, I believe we have, actually, do we have 4 renewals, Alex?
We do.
'Cause we just got cross-construction,
And
not just got, just,
yes, that's one that
So
The
there's
vendor
3 and the one that you
forgot
just handed
to,
us.
or had some kind of error submitting it and got it in and decided to bring it for today in case you wanted to review it. But I'd like to, if it's okay with everyone, begin with the ones that
yes.
were already in the docket. We have Burns Clancy that is applying for renewal. They were previously certified at 1 year. They have 23 employees. They are at 4.3% minority workforce, and we're recommending their reapproval for 1 year. National Power Riding Group is this year at 104 employees. They have 57.7% of minority participation, and they were previously certified for 2 years, and we're recommending renewal at the 2-year mark. Varsity Striping and Construction Company this year has 46 employees. They have 17.4% minority participation. They were previously certified at 2 years, and we're requesting recertification at 2 years. The final company is Cross Construction. They were previously certified at 2 years. And I was going to recommend recertification at 1 year, but if you would like to recertify for 2 years based on tradition, that I could support that as well. And in their new application, Peter, I sent it to you by email. I hope you have it. Do you have it with you?
I was looking at that right now.
Were you able, Alex, to look at these from a comparison perspective, and were there any concerns in the comparison of past data to current data?
I did. I was able to look, and I didn't see any. I'm trying to see if I can locate what the actual statistic is for their participation rate. The last time they applied was in 2013. They had 55 employees then, and this year they have 66 employees. They went from a minority participation rate 2 years ago at 10.9% to a new participation rate of 7.6%. The majority, they have 7.6% African American diversity, 15.2% female diversity, 0% Latino diversity, 0% Asian diversity, 0% Native American diversity, and 0% other. And again, if you thought that 2-year renewal at the 2-year mark, I could definitely support that. Or we could do 1 year, however the commission feels.
Any comments, any questions, any observations?
I do like the idea of the 1 year recertification, just based on, I mean, they have a decent, in my opinion, a decent female or women population employed there, 15%, minorities at 7.6%. For African Americans only, though, no Asians, no Latinos, correct? So I think the 1 year would be more than enough for now. Until, I mean, at least until, if those numbers could increase, maybe working up to something longer term.
I agree. I think 1 would be the maximum. Would be on that. And don't forget, 15% isn't much of a representation of women, when over half the population is female. So it's not like they're only 15% women. So we have to have a higher expectation for that.
So Pete, we're thinking a year? A year for cross-construction? What are your thoughts?
That seems perfectly reasonable to me.
Excellent.
Ready for a motion?
Please.
I'll make a motion for 1 year for Burns and Clancy, 2 years for National Power, 2 years for varsity striping, and 1 year for cross construction.
I'll second.
Sorry, Janice. Any final discussion? If not, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Excellent. Alex, thank you for leading us through the EEO workforce statistics. Where would you like to go? Staff activity report? Excellent. Thank you.
We currently have 5 cases pending. We have, in the first case, we are in the response phase. We just received a response, and I am reviewing some of the challenges that the attorney has brought forward in that response. And then we'll be reaching out to the attorney with the response from the HRO office. In the second phase, I am rapidly moving to schedule interviews of the employer witnesses. It's our oldest case, and it's my hope to get it closed out before Thanksgiving, if at all possible. The first case was a public accommodation case. The second is employment. Finally, third, we have an employment case, and I am in the process of scheduling those interviews as well. That was a case that went on hold for a while during reviewing of response of the attorney, and we may be entering into settlement discussions. I'm not sure at this point how receptive they are, but at least an offer has been made, and we'll see if they're interested in engaging in that. The fourth case is a public accommodation case, and I am in the interview phase on that case. The last case is one that was just filed last month, September 15th. It is an employment case. It has some race, age, and retaliation allegations, and we have transmitted the complaint, and the employer is preparing a response, and that response should be coming in sometime in November, and then we will move on to evaluating the response.
Excellent, thank you.
In terms of activity, we had a visit from a member of the community that wanted to discuss potential sex discrimination in an employment case back in September. After meeting with them, we determined that there was no jurisdiction. And then recently we've had a member of the community visit the office complaining of race discrimination. We have done the initial screen, and we're in the middle of the intake process, and then that may result in a charge as well. There's been no other activity other than those two. Finally, with respect to the budget, there's been no changes. We've not incurred any expenses.
Excellent. All righty. Are there, thank you very much, Alex, as always.
Thank you, Alex.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alex.
Are
Let me
there-
articulate that a little more. Sorry, getting late.
I did have one announcement. whenever
Yes,
you're
are
ready.
there any announcements, Alex?
I've been trying to, I feel sometimes like I'm not very good at computers, but sometimes I feel like a CPU. I understand that they multitask and give a percent of the CPU to different windows that are open. And so I've been working really hard on making sure that nobody gets left behind, no process gets left behind. And I'm a big education guy, and I'm a big outreach guy, and I'm a big proponent of giving people the tools and the standards they need to live up to the expectations of the community with respect to human rights. So I have 6 to 7 web pages that I'm in the process of working. They've all been started, and I wanted to get one of them at least 90% completed, and I was able to get one and load it onto the website, and I wanted to let you know that it was done. It is the public vendors and contractors site. One of the biggest areas that I find misunderstanding and myth is in this actual application process, and so I've prepared a page that walks through business people in terms of how to apply, do you need to apply, what are the criteria for application, and then at the very bottom, one-stop shopping. Every form you will need to go ahead and apply is there. I've also begun to take phone calls from companies. I had one company call and say, basically they're afraid to apply. You're the government, and I don't know about these numbers, and am I going to be treated fairly? And I suspected that sentiment is out there, and I reassured them that the commission is extremely fair and the city of Urbana is business friendly. And if, as I'm reviewing any of the applications, I have any concerns, it's my practice to pick up the phone and call. And that if anybody in the process of completing the application doesn't understand anything, to give me a call. You don't have to guess, and we'll walk you through it. And so that particular applicant was very excited and said they were going to apply, and then, of course, bid for business from the city. And I was surprised. I think they applied within 2 business days of the conversation. And then I think yesterday or today, there are several coming up for renewal. And I was very excited that I sent out an email to them and linked them to this page advising them everything they need is there. And I got back some thank you very much, that they don't have to dig through different places. Some of the tools on there are tools that are just, have been part of the office. I will be updating them at some point in the future, and I'll ask for input from the various committees that have expertise in that area. The other thing I wanted to add to was that in the near future, I'm looking forward to adding some different sites, one for people that are thinking of filing a charge, everything you need to know, another tab on education for businesses in terms of sexual harassment and what some training modules could look like in that area. And that's the only announcement I have for today.
Alex, for me, and customer service is one of the most important pieces of being a business and also being a government entity, and it's missing in so many places. And I'm so thankful that you're here to represent HRO, and that you're providing such amazing customer service and providing the educational pieces that the community needs. We are so grateful for all you've done so far.
This looks great. I mean, first time seeing it. Look forward to checking out the rest of it and the pages to come. Thank you.
Oh, you know, I forgot one last thing. If Jason, if you can hear me, if you can click on the HRO publications, there is a second page that I created. I don't know how I forgot about it. Speaking to education, it's really important to me and the office that we give people not just our opinion, but the opinion of the industry and the sector. So the HRO now has a reading room, and if you click on the publications and reading room, members of the community can learn about the areas that the commission and the office touch upon, such as human rights, civil rights, fair housing, and I forget what some of the others are. And it's at the very end of that page, I invite members of the community to let us know of publications they encounter that they think we should add. And I've already received one recommendation,
Oh,
and we'll be
excellent.
uploading that soon. Fran has also given us some ideas. So there were 2 new websites. Apologize.
Excellent.
And that's all.
Thank you. Are there any other announcements for the commission? If not, Pete? Pete? Safe travels. See you next month. This meeting is adjourned.